I think the major changes, for one, is of course, as a volunteer, we ran everything as a volunteer. And we had a lot of small businesses in town to where a lot of the people were able to leave their work.
The daytime was covered by volunteers who were allowed to leave their work.
And I worked at the drugstore, and they were good enough that on Squad 6 calls, they would let me go. And then on Thursdays, my day off, I could go back in and make up my time, which some weeks I spent all day Thursday in making up time because I could go.
It was still a basic EMT service, all volunteers, and we were tied to the fire department, but yet seen as a separate entity.
You know, it was nothing to get a call in the middle of the night. It took me about 6 to 7 minutes to get to town. It was anything out in Barbie, I went direct. Otherwise, you came to town, somebody had to get the ambulance, had to get it to go.
We drove from our own residence, and then it got a little tougher because we wanted to get the response time down, and then we moved into where we was staying on base.
Most of us, we started out, we were just volunteers, and you were paid so much a call. And so, I mean, it definitely was not a lucrative position. Obviously, you had to love and want to care for your community in order to do that. But then when we moved to the quarters, which we were so proud and as a family built together, all of the EMS people, their small children, their kids, we all worked together to make that whole thing happen. It was done because EMS people were going to be there 24 hours, and that was a part of it. I don't know whether everybody knew how we got that building. Dick and I were talking one day, and we talked about how that building sat down there, and it was doing nothing, and Deco owned it. And so Dick got a hold of Greg Smith, who worked for Deco, and Dick told him the idea, and he said, "We'd be more than glad to give that to you." So they gave it to us for $1, and that's how we came to have it. Bill and Lynetta Metcalf, longest tenured firemen in the history of North Webster, I'm certain. They wanted to have their wedding anniversary there, their 50th wedding anniversary. There were holes in the ceiling. It was raining in by the bucketful, and so we put up tarps and we made an actual hall for them to have their 50th wedding anniversary. And that was one of Bill Metcalf's really, really proud moments, that he knew that was going to be a building that was going to be used for good things. I mean, it was such a labor of love, and everybody learned skills that they didn't know. It was a great experience, and I do believe that's what helped tie us together, because we were proud of what we did. We were so proud of our facilities and the fact that we had it.
Well, response time was several minutes difference after we started staying on base.
Having those sleeping quarters then, of course, changed the whole process, which was a great benefit to the community.
When I started, I'm not even sure the paramedic service was a regular thing that most communities had.
And then multi-township went paramedic. And it turned into a dual response situation.
Multi-township was based out of Warsaw, and it was called multi-township because it would help service each one of the townships in the county with extra paramedic service.
It was probably around 1985 that we were getting paramedic assistance from multi-township.
We would call the dispatch and tell them that we needed paramedics, and they would come from Warsaw.
That could have either been they make it all the way to the house, or we're stopping someplace alongside of the road to meet up to them to give the patients the advanced care that they needed.
It was this crew on scene determined, do we want medics or not?
When we got out on a call, if it was something that we thought was serious, we would notify dispatch, and they would contact multi-township, and they would come. And
they would come in and help us, or if we needed the helicopter to come in, we would call and say, we need a helicopter here, this is critical.
And it would depend, if an IV needed to be started, because as a basic service, we couldn't do that yet. If it was a cardiac situation, usually multi would be dispatched the same time that we were. We would usually get to scene first, but they would be there for backup as quick as possible, or a major accident of some sort. Dispatch was very, very good at that time of kind of discerning from the 911 call. Is this just a basic need, or do we need to have backup already going?
Sometimes it was easier if we knew we were having trouble getting them out, if they were penned, and we knew we were going to need them. They would just go ahead and dispatch and be there on the scene with us.
They monitored our calls, so when we got a heart run, they started towards the scene, and if we needed them, we kept them. If not, we just signal 9'd them. But it was nice to know on a heart run that you did have somebody else coming, especially if you knew the patient and knew how bad they were. It was nice to have them.
I know personally I called for backup from them, I don't know, probably 20, 25, 30 times. And there was never a problem. They would come, we would assist them once they got on, they would take care of the patient and do what needed to be done. And a lot of times they would actually step into our ambulance with us to make the transport, just because 9 times out of 10 we already had them in the unit when they got there. And in about 3 or 4 years after I joined the service, when we started making the change to go to an advanced EMT and then to paramedic.
Oh my golly, I don't know how many times that was talked over in one of our meetings about going at least ALS. And our trustee at the time was just adamant, no. The funding's not there. Once you certify the ambulance as an ALS unit, it has to be ALS. And it just, the logistics wouldn't work at that time.
It seemed with the summer population that we had around North Webster with all the lakes and stuff there, we were getting more and more, I hate to say this, but more serious accidents on the lakes, more traffic, that kind of thing. And at that point, we were relying on dual response from multi-township EMS from Warsaw. And there were some times, not that they were at fault or anything, it was just taking quite a while to get a paramedic unit on site. And wanting to care for our community the best we could, we thought, is this the time that we need to do that?
When I went to work in Warsaw, I think that's when Dick finally decided there wasn't strong enough help during the day to be sure calls were covered. So moving to the paramedic status was huge.
We had to have personnel, and we were very fortunate enough to have people with the capabilities of going out and reaching out and making it turn into a full-time paramedic service.
I had the fortunate opportunity that I got to serve as captain of the EMS during those years when we were making that change from basic service to a medic service. It was not an easy road, to be honest about it. There were some decisions that were very easy. There were some that were very, very, very difficult that we had to make and things that we had to do. But looking back now, we should have done it earlier. There's been a lot more lives saved, a lot of better care given because of the decisions and the moves that we made at that time.
I was one of the original paramedics hired for the program in 1996. There were actually 3 of us hired initially at the end of 1995, myself, Rich McNeil, and Mike Martin, who was the paramedic supervisor at that time. And we went paramedic January 1st of 1996. Rich McNeil actually worked the first shift. He worked December 31st of 1995. And we were ALS. At that time, North Webster EMS was an ALS service with advanced EMTs. We were ALS till midnight. And then at midnight, Rich worked the first shift from midnight on. And then I came in the next morning and I worked the first 24-hour shift as a paramedic for North Webster. And we were only the second paramedic service in Kosciusko County at that time. So we covered a pretty big area. We covered north to Syracuse, we covered Milford, we covered Leesburg. We covered a lot besides Tippecanoe Township because we were the only paramedics on the north part of the county.
They have paramedics now, not just EMT or ALS. It's important for everybody to be there. I don't mean that, but the paramedics have given them an extra edge.
It was a big bite, obviously, for the township to do. You know, many counties today are truly struggling because their commissioners didn't do anything. EMS is not ordered to be paid for by any unit. The trustee is to be responsible for fire service, but there is nothing that says anybody has to pay for EMS. And that's one of the things legislatively that is going to be facing us, I'm sure, as a lot of the smaller units have dropped out. They're having to contract with this one, that one, and the other. And sometimes that service isn't as stellar as what you would like it to be.
I felt like that North Webster was always trying to achieve more and trying to make sure they covered the basis and yet did it together.
So those full-time people were hired and they ran with our volunteers for a while.
So on my shifts, I had 2 different squads that I worked with. We had set days. For daytime calls, Alyssa Schmucker was working up in the assessor's office, and Dick Mitchell was the trustee, so he was in the trustee's office. So Alyssa and Dick would come, and they would be my crew during the day. And then in the evenings, I had the squads that were already set in place prior to our coming in as full-time.
And then as the volunteers couldn't run anymore, then we slowly were able to hire more full-time people, and they ran as a 2-man crew. And that was kind of tough sometimes because you only had 2 people. We came up with the program of the first responders for the fire department, so we could have some of them be able to respond with the EMS crew to help us with the extra hand that might be needed on some calls. Back then in the 90s, we didn't have the power cot. And we didn't have all these extra nice, big, fancy pieces of equipment to help us like we have today. So it sometimes took 3 to 5 people to get somebody out of a house or to get the mission accomplished of what we needed to do. So the first responders being added, in my opinion, was a very, very good move. Then as things progressed and we needed more help, then we were able to hire more full-time people and hire part-time people. And we still always left room for volunteers, which we still do today, which I think that's very important, that if we have volunteers who can volunteer, that they're still allowed to volunteer, and that we let them do what they want to do as far as helping the community.
We are very fortunate that in the north part of our county, between Turkey Creek and us, we have a great service and pivot back and forth a lot and are able to help a lot of others with it.
We're very fortunate that we have the people and the personnel to advance it to where it is today.